Christianity is battle tested, and we're still here, and we're still the world's largest religion. Islam is now, for the first time, being battle tested, and it's collapsing. I used his own tactics against him. He got mad, and he blocked me and said I was engaging in bad faith. Oh, really? You don't say.
Welcome, everyone, to the Council of Trent. My guest today is Michael Jones from Inspiring Philosophy. Michael, welcome to the Council of Trent.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I have been following your work for a while, really impressed by it. But for some of our listeners who might not be as familiar, can you just run us through sort of your apologetic background and what you've been doing on YouTube the past few years?
Yeah, so I got on YouTube in 2011, so a long time ago, and I just been making various videos defending Christianity over the years. Was very shy at first. People don't realize I didn't show my face or name for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was really trying hard not to.
Why didn't you want to do that?
I'm introverted. Didn't really want the public recognition, the public name, the public being the public sphere, but then God just kept pushing me in that direction. And
I find the best apologists actually tend to be introverted. Like, I'll go and meet people, they'll always be surprised. They'll see people who will go out and do public talks, or someone like you, they'll see you do a public debate with a Muslim, and it can get really spirited. And they might think that you're just someone who's just like, oh, I'll just go out there and talk to everybody. And then they actually meet you and you're like, you know, that's not who I am all the time.
Yeah, I agree. Extroverts suck. I totally agree.
They get a bad rap, but there's some good ones out there. My wife would be a shining example of that. That's why I have friends. Yeah. Contrary to people on the internet, by the way, I love when people take me out of context. I said in a previous debate that one of the reasons that like I make friends, like when you're so introverted, you pour yourself into your work. Mm-hmm. Like I'm grateful I have a spouse that like sets up, oh, we're going to go out with this couple. Oh yeah, I should have remembered to do something like that. Then go and meet people. Some people online twisted that into, I'm only allowed to have the friends my wife chooses. But I'm sure no one's ever taken things you've said on the internet and grotesquely twisted them out of proportion.
No, never. No one ever does that on the internet. No.
Who would you say kind of so you've been doing this since 2011, and that's long before. I remember I posted a video way back on my YouTube channel. It says started like 2006, back when I just got one because YouTube was new. I published a video. I responded to a guy who said it was a viral video from like 2012, like Jesus, not religion. It was like some rap. I made my own rap in response.
Oh God.
Oh yeah, no, it's cringe.
I have to go find this rap.
I wonder, I don't think it's on there. I think I'm going to have to resurrect it and bring it back because that would have been almost 15 years ago. But then I went dark and didn't put anything really on there until like 2020. But it seems like if you've been consistently on YouTube for like 15 years. Yeah. What have you seen as kind of like a change in the presentation about Christianity, Christian apologetics? You talk about like early 2010s, now we're in the mid 2020s. What are things you've seen as kind of like changed in the last 15 years?
Yeah, it's become more of a confident, I guess, approach to apologetics. Like if you go back to 2011, 2012, we were just making videos like, hey, here's why I think God exists.
Right.
We were very much on the defense. Very much like being attacked by new atheists, secularists, that kind of movement.
Right.
And I feel like within the past 5 years, we've really turned the tide, and you're getting more Christians that are more confident. They're making apologetics fun. People like God Logic, for example, are really good at that. So I feel like we're more on the offensive now. We're now trying to win back the culture and making a lot of progress. So I think it's in some ways it's gotten better, in some ways it's gotten worse.
I would agree with you that I think it is better if we're not always on defense and timid. This idea like, hey, I'm sorry I'm putting my Christian beliefs out there, but here's my 4 reasons why they're true. But even this idea of going on the offense without being offensive. Like, I mean, I was raised during my conversion experience was really based on like William Lane Craig, J.P. Moreland, that sort of Biola apologetic where you do formal debates. Here's my arguments and proofs. Very trying to make academics suitable for lay people to understand it and maintain that sort of academic tone. And I think that's still really important. But at the same time, it seemed like the new atheists or like the liberals at BuzzFeed or things like that, they had like the monopoly on snark,
right?
And just like trying to ridicule us. And I think do you think there is some benefit in us turning around and ridiculing non-Christian beliefs, secular beliefs, even beliefs of other religions, but ridiculing it in a way without just throwing Christian charity out the window.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we just take advice from the church fathers, I don't think St. Jerome, for example, was always nice. He was very snarky at times.
No, yeah. When you read, what is it? He wrote his reply defending the perpetual virginity of Mary.
That's what I was thinking of.
I think it was Jovinius. And he just calls him like a blockhead. He's like, how could you believe something so asinine like this? Mm-hmm. And just kind of goes through in that way. But, it's kind of interesting, though. I think we see that rise in that sort of rhetoric among the fathers after Christianity becomes the established religion of the Roman Empire. Yeah. Whereas the tone is different. Like if you look, for example, at Ignatius of Antioch, Justin Martyr, if you look at the early Nicene fathers, well, especially you look at, for example, Justin Martyr, his apology to the Roman emperor. Yeah. So like, we're actually pretty good for society. I know people are saying we're cannibals. We're not. And here, let me go through all of this. Do you think there might be a parallel here that, in the 2010s, Christianity is still like belittled as something like, once we get pure rationality, we're going to have flying cars and the world's going to be perfect. And we just got to get rid of this Christian stuff. But then now 15 years later, people realize, when you take it away, you get craziness. Maybe the Christians were right all along.
Oh, that's exactly what happened. I mean, you go back, the new atheists were just, they were such a minority. They still are a minority, but they were dominating the culture. Everything was about that, like Hollywood, the media, academia, was all promoting this secularist nonsense. And then it seems like within the past 10 years, a lot of them kind of woke up and were like, some of them, not all, but some of them kind of like, well, maybe we went too far. Maybe we do want a Christian culture.
Well, you look at Richard Dawkins. He's saying like, well, I consider myself a cultural Christian. Like, right. Well, what are you talking about? Dude, you wrote a book called The God Delusion.
Yeah, it's wild. But I mean, there was a video I saw of him. I can't remember. It was a while back, but he's walking around Britain and he's just dumbfounded as to why there's so many metaphysics, like psychic shops around Britain. He's like, this is not what he was expecting.
Right.
But I mean, I think this kind of is what happens when you remove Christianity from the West. People kind of reverted to modern paganism. Like they're into horoscopes, they're into metaphysics shops, and they're going to psychics because people are going to crave spirituality. They're not going to get it from Christianity. They're going to revert back to their pagan ways. And that's what a lot of this new age stuff is doing.
Yeah.
And it's just, but it's going to be bad because we're also seeing declining birth rates. So like they cannot even, the secularist culture cannot even produce another generation to replace them. Like they just are going to die out. So it's like, you guys can't even build a culture for one generation. What are you doing?
You can't maintain that idea of ritual, generational continuity. People all throughout history, time, place, and culture have had things that mark, coming of age, different important elements, milestones of life. Christianity has that built into it because God created the fabric of reality itself. Mm. But I think that is interesting when you talk about how we have this kind of modern paganism. It reminds me of how you'll have like Hollywood actors and actresses. People in Hollywood will make fun of Christianity, like, oh, Christianity is so stupid and, all these myths. And then those same people will join Scientology. That is the one that, I think it was Isaac Hayes, like on South Park. Like he would rip into Christianity all the time. And then as soon as they made fun of Scientology, he quit. He's like, you shouldn't be making fun of religion. Yeah. I'm like, you make fun of what I believe. You think that the reason you're stressed out is because a bunch of dead aliens were thrown in a volcano 45 million years ago that traveled here on a big spaceship or something. Like, are you always just boggled that people will reject Christianity and then they'll go for the wildest stuff?
Well, yeah, I try to avoid that in myself, first of all. So I don't want to be like, haha, Islam is silly. You guys go kiss a stone. That's silly. I'm not perfect, but I try to avoid that because that's not an argument as to why it's wrong. That's not an argument as to why Scientology is wrong. They believe weird things.
The question is, what is the evidence? Something you believe could sound very strange.
Yeah.
Things I believe as a Catholic sound strange to people.
But I think what people do is they tend to forget that. When you're like a Scientologist like Isaac, you're going to be like, well, this is what I know to be true or what I think to be true. And when you hear something other than that, like Christianity, your psychology starts to reject it and you disgust receptors can start to light up and you start to make fun of it and mock it. And we got to work on that. But I think that's what a lot of those Hollywood people are doing.
But I think what's important and what you do like with your channel, what I try to do with my channel is, okay, we all believe things that are odd, even at the most basic fundamental level, saying while we are human organisms, we're human animals, nearly everybody agrees we're not like any other animal or organism on Earth. We have different moral status, different sense of intrinsic dignity. So we all believe things that are odd. How do we explain those odd things?
What I like to do is it's like try to explain quantum mechanics to somebody in the 1800s. They would look at you like a new age woo-woo nut job. Particles can be on the other side of the universe and instantly transfer. And there's no particle there before you look at it. It's just a wave function. They would have locked you up for, being a crazy person. Sometimes reality is weird. We just reject it, but we got to go on the evidence. And it seems like a lot of people in general don't do that. It's just easier to mock things that you don't believe in because it's easier for your brain psychology.
Let's talk a bit about, you were saying about Muslims not caricaturing beliefs. I think something else you'd probably notice, especially even Richard Dawkins and atheism in Europe, is he'll go around and he'll see, there's all these, psychic shops, things like that. But also you would see this robust rise of Islam, especially in Europe, not as much here in the US, but that doesn't mean it's not coming, but especially seeing it in Europe. I think that someone like Richard Dawkins would much prefer a Christian country to a Muslim country. And now ruse the idea that just like if you create a vacuum, something will fill the void. And it's often something you wouldn't prefer. And you actually just came here straight from Dearborn. You were doing when I hear Dearborn, I'm like, oh, that's an exciting place for young Christian apologists to be.
Yeah, I just woke up this morning in Dearborn, flew here. So I landed like an hour or so ago. So yeah, just came straight from Dearborn. Myself, God Logic, David Wood, we were all up there with a bunch of friends of ours as well. Reasons Answered Apologetics, Elle and Eric. We were doing outreach. We were talking to Muslims on the streets. So we'd set up on a corner and we'd film it and we record stuff and we would invite Muslims to have conversations with us. And it went really well. I mean, we had a lot of really good conversations with Muslims there. Some people called the cops on us, but the cops came and they're like, "Are you guys harassing anyone?" We're like, "No. Oh, you're fine. Just do what you're doing." So
nice.
It was not what it was like 15 years ago when David Wood went there and they locked him up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that happened to him. This was a lot more chill. People were just ready to have conversations. The cops were super cool. Everyone was really nice. It's good. It was good for me in the sense that most of the Muslims I deal with online are nut job fringe people.
That's true. I think that's true of most belief systems.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I think about the people who are giving me the most grief right now, like there's people who represent Eastern Orthodoxy that are terminally online. They're totally insane.
Yeah.
But if I walked into an Eastern Orthodox parish, they would just probably be the most cool, laid back people and never even heard of this stuff on the internet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean,
and you're probably similar with Muslims you talk to.
Oh yeah. Everyone there was super cool. There was a young Muslim yesterday that came up to us and was like starstruck. He took photos with us and he just sat and asked us questions for like an hour.
So he's familiar with the online work, but he's not so sucked in that he's just going to be a totally abrasive jerk. Like he's genuinely interested.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now there were some people, shouting out their cars at us. There was a car that pulled up at one point and was like looking at us, and then a cop came and like started yelling something, and we were like, "Oh, is he yelling at us?" But no, he got rid of the car for us. That was just sort of like watching us strangely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like there were some aggressive ones, but the majority of the ones we talked to, super chill, super nice, just ready to have a conversation about Islam and Christianity. We were outside an Islamic school at one point. We didn't realize that's where we were, but a bunch of kids came over and started talking to us. They were interested in what we had to say. One took a photo of something I showed him on my phone. Like, yeah, there's 2 different versions of the Quran here. He's like, all right, I want to go ask my imam about that. So, I mean,
right.
Yeah, very good stuff.
What were your conversations with these Muslims? What did it tend to, when you talk with them, either here or in other conversations, what does it tend to gravitate around when you're talking to them and you want to engage the question of Islam and Christianity?
The Quran. We always try to take it back there.
Okay.
And my experiences, and I would read a lot of reports of missionaries in the Muslim world from 100 years ago or so, saying they're not having not a lot of success. And so I was looking, what are they doing?
Right.
And well, they're just preaching the gospel.
Okay.
Great, yeah, but you got to break down the wall of Islam first.
Yeah.
Because they are so caught up in the idea the Quran is from God, it's perfect. So you got to attack that. You got to show all the contradictions in it. You got to run the Islamic dilemma. Be like, the Quran is confirming my scriptures. Okay, well, my scriptures contradict the Quran. So if my scriptures are true, like the Quran claims, I got to reject Islam. But if they're corrupted, why is the Quran confirming corrupted scriptures? So we ran that a lot. And Muslims didn't have good answers for us. They just start telling us things the Quran doesn't say, but it starts to break down that wall that maybe this isn't from God, and now I got to really defend this. And why do I have to spend so much time defending it when the Quran claims to be clear and perfect? And so I mean, like, you start breaking that down, then you can present the gospel to them, and then they get far more interested. We've had a lot of success online with that approach.
That makes sense to me because when I engage people, I mean, I try to model for people a Socratic approach to apologetics. It's something I've done for a while. I really got my start doing that approach when I would engage in pro-life apologetics. This would be I started doing this in university campuses around 2008, 2009. Really got started actually in 2006. They visited my school at Arizona State University. We set up pro-life exhibits. We would dialogue with students. First, we talk about abortion, but then it would quickly spread to other topics. And my goal in asking the questions, and I still do this when I teach this method to Christians, is that in order for people to appreciate the good news of the gospel, they have to see bad news first. Like, good news doesn't make sense without bad news.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And bad news has to be in the form of that the current thing you believe, like, so if Christianity is the true, the good, and the beautiful, then whatever you believe that's not Christian, in some respect, it's going to be bad, ugly, and or false, usually all three.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you see that missionaries to Islam make more progress. Yeah, you can preach that Christianity is true, good, and beautiful, but they also believe that about Islam. So you got to put the cracks in there first. And do you think there's a difference? We have a little bit of an advantage here because I know in Balboa Park, I used to live in San Diego, there are Muslims there who would do street evangelization.
Oh, they won't even. I was just there like a month ago or so.
They talk to you or no?
No, they don't want to talk to us.
I put an outreach. One of them is Sheikh Uthman, and I wanted to engage him in a debate, and I haven't heard back.
Yeah, he's too busy working on his track and field. He's a great runner. He's like Usain Bolt, man. We call him Uthman Bolt sometimes. I mean,
he sees you and he's running.
He's fast. I don't get it, man. He takes off. I don't know what the problem is.
Well, I engaged him a while ago when I was doing some Muslim apologetics, and I want to get into it more because part of me, I feel bad. I feel like, well, if I've already shown there's no good reason to believe in the Quran, I feel like I'm almost exhausted it. Like, what could I say? But there is so much more to say. The Islamic Dilemma, I want to get into that more. But I remember mostly the arguments tend to be, well, Islam is true because the Quran is the word of God and it's impossible for a human being to have created this, which is like one of the weakest arguments ever.
Easy that is to debunk? I believe it's either Sahih Muslim or Sahih al-Bukhari, but the number is like 402.
Yeah.
Right in there, it says that Umar said, this was one of the companions of the Prophet, said, Allah agreed with me in 3 things. And then he said something, and then Allah sent down a verse, just like what Umar said.
Right.
So the Quran claims if this is not from God, produce something like it. Well, Umar did.
Yeah.
It's in their own hadith.
Yeah.
Umar produced verses, and then Allah sent down something to match it, the exact same thing that Umar said.
Right.
So you throw that at them, and then they have nothing because their own hadith shows them that Umar met the challenge.
Okay, so just to recap this story. So the Hadith is a collection of oral traditions about Muhammad and then his successors.
What they said, their sayings.
Yeah, but these tend to be written 200, 300 years later.
Yeah.
Not terribly reliable.
No.
So in one of them, one of the companions of Muhammad does write something as beautiful as the Quran. So God basically has to play catch up and say, oh yeah, I can do that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, when they say, this is from God, how could you, no one can produce something like it. You could just be like, well, ChatGPT can do it, like, obviously. But guess what? Umar did it.
Yeah.
Your own source shows that someone did it. Therefore, this argument is trash.
Yeah.
And that stops them dead in their tracks because they can debate about you having, like an AI do something for you. They can't debate that because that's a hadith they have to accept.
Sheikh Uthman is funny though, because that was like the main miracle that I had seen. Or like presented that the Quran itself is a miracle. Muhammad didn't do any miracles. There's some recorded in the Hadith, but they're way too late to have any historical attestation to them. But one that I was surprised that Sheikh Uthman would put on his videos was the claim that Muhammad split the moon.
Yeah.
And just like, I wanted to like debate him on that so bad because the evidence for it is just so legendary and different than what we have for like the resurrection. But I never heard back.
The funny thing is, like, they'll say the Gospels were written too late. They're 40 years after Jesus. And then they're like, but no, these Hadith collections written hundreds of years later. They're good to go, guys. You can trust them.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that also contradicts the Quran. Because the Quran in numerous places, like Surah 29, I believe it's like 50 to 51.
Yeah.
The pagans are coming to Muhammad and goes, why won't his Lord give him a sign? And Allah replies, signs are only with Allah.
Right.
Muhammad's only sent as a warner or as a messenger.
Yes.
Okay, if he's only a messenger, he is not a miracle worker. And that's Allah's response to why he's not doing any miracles. So it seems as though when they started to spread around and they encountered Christians, they started to make up hadith that Muhammad did miracles.
To catch up, yeah.
Yeah, hundreds of years later. But the earliest source, the Quran, doesn't report Muhammad doing miracles. In fact, it strongly suggests, and I mean very strongly, that he's not doing any.
Right. He's not, he doesn't do that. He specifically, when challenged on that, doesn't do it. And herein lies we have the problem that Muhammad then just becomes a prophet, someone who points to God, either to Allah or to previous prophets.
Yeah.
But one of them he points back to is Jesus, and that gets us to the Islamic dilemma. Mm-hmm. So we're supposed to read the Quran, we're supposed to believe it. Muhammad doesn't do any miracles. Okay, but then what about the prophet before him, the actual prophet, Jesus, that he does miracles and then he rises from the dead? The Quran says to believe in Jesus, but then we know from history, we know from what the New Testament says that Jesus claimed to be God, rose from the dead, which contradicts what the Quran claims, even the claim by the Quran that Jesus was never crucified, hence the dilemma. So is there more that needs to be unpacked? So that's essentially the Islamic dilemma. It would go like this, that if the Quran is true, then Christianity is true, the New Testament is true, and so the Quran is false. Or if the Quran is false, then Islam is false.
Yeah, it's very, very clear the Quran says things like in Surah 568 that, O people of the book, you have nothing to stand on unless you observe the Torah, the gospel, and what has been revealed to you from your Lord.
Right.
Surah 241, that you believe in Muhammad because we're confirming your scriptures. Same with Surah 447. I mean, this is all over the place. We went through and counted. We found about 123 verses of the Quran that speak positively of the Jewish and Christian scriptures, like pointing people to them. In fact, like Surah 29 tells Muslims they're to believe in our scriptures.
Yeah.
It says, say to the people of the book, we believe in what has been revealed to us and what has been revealed to you. Our God and your God is one.
Yeah.
So that's a huge problem because we just go to the Bible and it's like, this contradicts everything the Quran is saying.
Right.
But your Quran is pointing us to it. Therefore, we need to reject the Quran if this is from God, as the Quran claims. It creates a paradox.
Right.
And so, I mean, you bring that up to them and then they have to start making excuses for the Quran. They're like, well, it meant this. Didn't mean that it's confirming your scriptures. It meant it was like partially confirming. So then I go, what about Surah 11:1? It says, these are the verses of the Quran. These verses are well perfected and then fully explained.
And that would be the problem, because I think a Muslim apologist might say, well, of course, yes, the Quran, which is, they'll say, has been perfectly preserved, points back to the Bible, which is imperfectly preserved. And all the parts in it that contradict the Quran happen to be Christian interpolations or legends. It's not the true original parts of the Bible. Is that one way they try to get around the dilemma?
Oh, yeah. But I mean, just think about it. If the Quran is well perfected and perfectly explained, and it's clear, as Surah 12:1 says, they can't get around that because the Quran should say that. Yeah. When it says it's confirming our scriptures over and over, I mean, like so many verses.
Right.
Okay. It should explain that because the Quran claims that it's going to do that.
Yeah.
So therefore, when they come along and they say, well, the Quran meant something different. Too bad. You've just accidentally admitted the Quran is not clear. Its verses are not perfected and fully explained. So congratulations. You just debunked Islam again.
Okay, so you don't even have to go the route of saying, well, no, this stuff is historically reliable. You're saying in taking this route, you're going to have to deny what the Quran actually says. You've radically reinterpreted it to try to save the argument.
Absolutely, yeah.
And do you think part of this comes from the fact that the Quran, its early formulation, was probably partially due to Muhammad or his companions just having like an incomplete knowledge of Christianity in the first place?
Oh, yeah. He was clearly some illiterate guy. I think he thought he was a prophet. And so because he thought he was a prophet, he just assumed that well, whatever I say is going to be in line with those scriptures because Allah is not going to let me down.
Right.
That thing that attacked him in the cave. So he just started preaching stuff. He'd hear stories from the Jews and Christians. He liked some. He didn't like others. He included what he liked, that kind of stuff. And so he made a huge error that we can now use to debunk Islam.
Because he recited this over a period of many years. So it was not like trying to say, that he just got this all in one sitting from an angel allegedly in a cave and then just gave it. This was given over a long period of time, which would be easy for someone to fabricate, meld together, and just incorporate things that he had heard from Christian missionaries or misheard, like thinking, for example, that, God's son is his literal son, or that, God is wed to Mary, or some of the other things that are in there that clearly seem to speak of someone who's only familiar with misapprehensions of Christianity.
Oh, yeah. And he probably heard stuff from like Gnostic Christians. That's why, the Quran talks about denying the crucifixion according to mainstream Sunni Islam.
Right.
So, he's probably hearing, we know he's getting stuff from the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, the Second Targum of Esther. He's hearing stories. And so sometimes he'll just and so there's places in the Quran where it talks about the people of the book distorting the scriptures with their tongues. So that's interesting. So it seems as though Muhammad heard stories he liked and he included it. If he didn't like it, well, it's because you're distorting that with your tongue. That's not what it says. And that's pretty clear in one place, like Surah 7, 157, where he says, they know I'm in their scriptures.
Yeah.
The Torah and the gospel mention me, the unlettered prophet, but they won't tell you because they're hiding it from you.
It's interesting the way the approach you take, especially in the street evangelization. It's sort of like the mirror image of when I see Sheikh Uthman and other Muslim apologists. When I watch their videos, like when they go to Balboa Park, they'll find an unsuspecting Christian and, they'll just say, hey, the Bible has all these contradictions in it. And the Christian can't explain the contradictions. And then they try to pivot and say, therefore, and hey, look, God is one. We've got a simple belief system. You should go with Islam. That's always my favorite approach because they just get someone in a moment of confusion and then leap over having to give evidence for their claim. And just say, we believe that God is one, Muhammad is his prophet. Isn't that way better than your Trinity and Bible contradictions? And so it's interesting, they take a similar approach. Do you see a lot of the more effective rhetorical Muslims kind of do that? They'll just attack Christianity, create doubt, leapfrog over into Islam.
Absolutely. And as soon as they do that, the simple way is to go, why are you pointing out all these contradictions in the Bible? You just debunked Islam.
Right.
Because the Quran confirms this. So why would Allah confirm a book that's filled with so many contradictions? What are you doing? So you immediately turn it on them. They've got no idea what to do.
Okay, so the Islamic Dilemma works not only as an offensive measure against Islam, it's a defensive measure against attacks from Muslims on things like the reliability of scripture.
Exactly.
I like it. I like it.
This, when I debate Muslims on this and they want to debate, is Islam versus Christianity true? I always say, listen, we can have that debate. There's no way you can win this.
Yeah.
You either are going to come away saying both religions are false or that one of the religions is false, and it's going to be Christianity. Because if you attack the Bible, which you have to do, that shows Islam is false because your Quran confirms my Bible. Sorry.
I've thought about that. I was approached for one of these big debate festivals. They wanted me to come and do a debate with a Muslim, and he wanted to do the debate on Islam versus Christianity. And I was a bit hesitant in doing it that way. So I proposed a counter offer to him saying, let's do two debates. Is Islam true? Is Christianity
you should
true?
have did the first one.
and throw the dilemma in there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm familiar with the dilemma, but I'm not as seasoned in deploying it. So I think I might want to spend some time with that before I pit both of them together. Because part of me, the reason I wanted to separate them was I don't want to do an Islam versus Christianity debate and get on my back foot going up against here's a million contradictions and the Trinity doesn't make sense, when I guess I could sidestep all of that by just throwing the Islamic dilemma in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And here's another cool dilemma for them that we came up with.
Okay.
So if the Bible predicts a future Gentile prophet, Islam is false. If it doesn't predict a future Gentile prophet, Islam is false. So think about it. The Quran says we can find Muhammad in the Torah and the gospel.
Right.
It's Surah 61:6 says that Jesus spoke of someone named Ahmed coming after him. Okay, here's the problem with that. Okay, so if Muhammad is, or if there's no future prophet in our Bible, Islam is false because it claims that he's in there.
Right.
But if the Bible does predict a future Gentile prophet, Islam is still false, because prophecies in the Bible, as you know, are theologically indexed.
Right.
You can't divorce them from their theology. So any prophet the Bible predicts has to be in line with what the Bible teaches.
Right.
So, and if anyone comes along and contradicts the Bible, they have to be a false prophet by definition, what the Bible teaches. So if there's a future Gentile prophet, which I don't think the Bible speaks of, but let's just say the Muslims are right and there is, okay, Islam is still false, because that means either he hasn't come yet, or it was Muhammad, but the early Muslims corrupted his message so much that he was originally a Trinitarian Christian and they changed everything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, either way, Islam is false still.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. The Quran demands they find Muhammad in our scriptures. But by doing that, they're going to show Islam is false because of this biblical prophet dilemma.
Right, exactly. Some of the other things I've seen you debate, though, you've debated, you engage things like the Quran about the truth of Islam. You've also done debates about whether Islam is good for society, and in particular, I've seen you're one of the only ones I've seen that have debated the issue of child marriage.
Oh yeah,
like how did you want to get into that hornet's nest?
I didn't. So I saw the whole backstory. I was at a debate con event, and David Wood got up there to debate some guy named Kenny, who's a Muslim, on Age of Aisha, and I was sitting next to an atheist. Holy Kool-Aid.
And let's stop. I want to hear about that because I've interacted with him before. Was it Thomas, right? Thomas Westbrook. Yeah. For those who don't know, Aisha was the underage wife of the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
They were wed, was she like 6?
When she was 6, and they consummated the marriage when she was 9.
Right. So wed at 6, consummated at 9. Just to back so people who are listening know who Aisha is. Yeah. So you're at the conference sitting next to Holy Kool-Aid. They're doing this debate on Aisha.
Yeah. And him and I are just like bonding over this, I guess would be the best word to use. Like, we're just like, we cannot believe what we're hearing.
Oh, and for our listeners who don't know, once again, I love when apologists talk shop, because we're all like, oh, it's Holy Kool-Aid. And people are like, what? Where's Kool-Aid? The Kool-Aid man was there? He just burst through the brick wall and he was there. Yeah. Holy Kool-Aid, Thomas Westbrook, is kind of a new, part of the brand of the new atheist YouTuber. He's been around for a while. One of the first videos I did on my channel was him and Bible contradictions. So you're there, you're bonding with this atheist critical YouTuber over, look at what Islam is doing.
Yeah, and like Kenny's up there going like, hey, she may not have been 9. She could have been 12. And we're like, oh my gosh. So after that, I made a couple Twitter posts about how horrible Islam was. And like, I hinted that maybe I'll attack it more, but then I forgot.
Yeah.
But then about 6 months later, some Muslim apologist named Daniel Akikachu posted on his YouTube, I challenge you to debate me on if child marriage should happen today.
Oh boy.
Now at the time, my daughter was like, yeah.
Okay. You want to debate that.
At the time, my daughter was
because it's not just the Quran, it's rampant in the Muslim world because of Muhammad's example.
Yeah. So I read that post, and my daughter was like 6 or 7 at the time, and like a primal like instinct like awoke in me, and I'm like, it's game time. And I read so much on child marriage. I read like the history of it all, studies on all the harm it causes, and went into the debate. And I got him to admit in the debate that in Islam, it'd be permissible to sleep with an 11-month-old if she's married off by her parents. Yeah. And he, like, it just exposed how horrible this religion is.
Because his idea of when is someone at the age of marriage. So his idea of the age of marriage is just strictly biological development. Yeah. And you brought forward a great counter reply to that, being precocious puberty. Because he'll just say, well, look, like, if your body is capable of bearing children and having children, why wouldn't God have made you ready for marriage? And that happens for 11, 12-year-old people. But there are cases, I think the world's youngest pregnancy, I think the girl was like 5. Wow. It was in Peru. Yeah, you can look, she gave birth to this child. And then I think as she was raised, she basically told that, it was like treated like a brother-sister relationship until the child was a lot older to find out. But there have been 5-year-olds that have given birth. Yeah. And so it's like, so for him, it's like, is that morally acceptable under Islam? And he had to say, yeah.
It's worse than that, because he agreed that you could sleep with a girl before she got her first period. If she's just showing signs of puberty, it's okay. And so he had to admit that. And that's why he admitted that if a girl who has precocious puberty at 11 months, it'd be okay. And that's Islam. That's why we fight so hard against it.
Yeah. And that's what people need to see. And it makes me mad too. And I think this is something where we can get kind of more of not aggressive, but more of the this might be a place, it's kind of a weird way to bring in the atheist YouTubers and the atheist critics, because among the atheists, you can kind of separate them into the ones who are just kind of more centrists or libertarian minded, and those who are just hardcore like liberals. Because the hardcore liberal atheists won't want to say anything negative about Islam because of their I say it's because of their racist anti-racism.
Yeah.
Because they basically put it this way: in the history of the world, it's the white people that make things bad and the brown people are perpetual victims. They say, oh, and Islam is a bunch of brown people, therefore Muslims couldn't be bad, which is of course racist because most Muslims do not live in the Middle East. And this is idea that like you're going to equate this entire religion. It's a religion, not an ethnicity, which is already they're off on a racist foot here. It was kind of like when I saw, I guess the difference there would be like back in like 2014, there was a debate between on Real Time with Bill Maher with Sam Harris and Ben Affleck. And like Sam Harris would be an example of an atheist we could even ally with, who sees like, yeah, Islam is worse than Christianity and has really dangerous. We need to do something. And Harris was saying this on the show, and Ben Affleck was saying, you're an Islamophobe.
Yeah.
Like, how can you just say anything bad about Islam when it's the more well-read atheists who can say, no, there's a difference. Christianity and Islam are not the same thing, and Christianity certainly is not worse than Islam. You'd much rather, and that's where Dawkins and the others are seeing this now, they would rather live in a Christian society than a Muslim society. And I think, I'm sure it gives some of your thoughts on this. I think part of it, and this deals also with doing like apologetics with Islam, like Christianity, we had to fight tooth and nail the last 300 years against the Enlightenment, against, Hume, against, German higher form criticism. Christianity's had to be battle tested now. We can't just be like, well, the Bible says it, so it's true. We've had to do form criticism, historical criticism, in-depth philosophy. But I feel like in a lot of other places around the world, Islam is really unchanged in like 500 years.
Oh yeah. Well,
and it's incapable. When it's met with these challenges, it just wants to like use, either legal or physical violence to just meet the challenges. Say, no, we're not going to deal with that.
I mean, that's kind of good news though. Christianity is battle tested and we're still here and we're still the world's largest religion. Islam is now for the first time being battle tested and it's collapsing.
Because it was sheltered. It's basically like the sheltered kid who never had to fight for himself.
Yeah.
It always had like, bigger governments and cultures fighting for it. And now it's like, oh, now you're here in the Western world, the marketplace of ideas and YouTube.
Yeah.
And you've got nothing.
Well, I mean, like look what the poll numbers coming out of places like Tunisia, Iran, Turkey.
Yeah.
Young people are leaving Islam. Some polls have shown 24 to 26% of youth are leaving Islam.
Yeah.
So, and the internet is killing it. It's not battle tested, and they have a lot of catching up to do, and they can't because there's so many problems in Islam. It's not gonna be a good future. It's not gonna be this giant religion they think it is. There's a lot of like smoke and mirrors being put up right now to try to pretend everything's okay. But the sheikhs and imams are sounding the alarms at their conferences, talking about 24% of Muslim youth leaving Islam, for example. So, I mean,
you even noticed when you went to Dearborn, it's different now than when you were there 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And do you think that might be a part of it?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I saw a lot of people walking around without hijabs. I mean, I saw a lot of Muslims in hijabs for sure, but I saw a lot of secular people. We met a lot of ex-Muslim Christians there. Some friends of mine went to a church. There was a lot of ex-Muslims there. So, I mean, like, sometimes I hope what's happening is what God is doing is he brought a bunch of Muslims into the world because he knows within a few generations they'll assimilate and deconvert, and that's going to help attack the religion. Because you have like Muslim apologists like Zakir Naik like sounding the alarm saying, hey, Muslims, we should be moving to Muslim dominant countries and preserve our culture. Like, why are you saying that?
They're in retreat.
Yeah, like what? Why are you saying come home? What are you worried about all of a sudden? So it's kind of weird that they think they're going to take over, but now they're saying, guys, we should be in majority Muslim countries. Come on, what are you doing over there? Because
then you see when the questions are asked, they can't be answered. I want to circle back on the child marriage issue because I could see a Muslim apologist I think one of the classic moves they'll do to get around it, they'll say, well, you as a Christian, you believe like the Virgin Mary was a minor. Maybe you debate the age. How is that any different? So how do you respond to that?
Yeah,
objection?
so the Catholic Encyclopedia says that the sources on Mary's age are unreliable. So that's to be the Proto-Evangelium of James. And it says that she was married to Joseph when she was 12, but it wasn't like a normal marriage. He was given to this 90-year-old man in the story to protect her virginity.
Right.
And then she doesn't even get pregnant until the age of 16.
Right.
So they ignore that. But if you actually look at research and the time of Palestine at that time, so Amram Troper, Michael Satlow have pointed out that girls on average, Jewish girls on average in that time period, were marrying between their late teens to early 20s. Earliest is like mid-teens.
Yeah.
Compare that with the Jews in Babylon, they were marrying young teens.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, okay, then Mary was probably late teens to early 20s based on that research. The wider Roman Empire was doing similar practices. It's almost like people knew that you had to wait for the hips to fully widen before you should expect a girl to bear children. It's like they kind of figured that out on their own. And so what were people doing throughout history? They weren't marrying 9-year-olds or 12-year-olds. That was not normal.
Yeah.
The normal thing we see in research coming from people like Keith Hopkins, Brent Shaw, Kim Phillips, and the other authors I cited, people prior to the modern age, girls were marrying late teens to early 20s on average.
Right. So it's interesting that if you just look, you could say, look, you're trying to say that your cultural view that it's okay to marry even 9 and 10-year-olds, that was not the norm in the Christian world or even in the Jewish world. And it's funny, even if they try to go to the oldest sources to say that Mary was young, 11 or 12 years old, those same sources say that she was a pledged virgin. And this would be what now we as Catholics call a Josephite marriage. It's one to protect her perpetual virginity. So if you take the Catholic approach, there's no intercourse happening there. If you take more of a Protestant approach, you could say, oh, well, this is just, she could be late teens or early 20s.
Yeah,
and so there's no problem there.
That's what the data shows.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, yeah. Either approach is fine. It's not comparable to the horrible thing that Muhammad did to Aisha.
Yeah, that to be wed at 6 and then to consummate 9 or 10 years old. This is now rampant in the Muslim world. And it's not just that, though. The other thing that really shocked me that I wasn't aware of until a few months ago was looking at the rates of cousin marriage in the Muslim world. I don't know how much you've looked into that, but showing that is actually really unique. And even in countries, it's not just a regional issue, because you'll go to the region, you'll see that Christians engage in it far less than Muslims engage in marrying first cousins. Because they want to create these kind of tribal clan arrangements, even though that's highly dysfunctional.
Oh, thank God for the Catholic Church outlawing cousin marriage all those centuries ago.
Dude, rock on here. Well, I remember actually looking at the canonical impediments for cousin marriage. They used to be a lot stricter. So it used to be a lot stricter that you couldn't even marry like your second or third cousin. So like I remember looking at a graph created around, I think it was around the Lateran Council in 1215, showing what was appropriate, and it gets really like far out there. Yeah. I think where we're at now is basically the line is drawn at first cousin, and it could only be allowed if you got like a dispensation from a bishop. Yeah. But otherwise it's drawn there. What in pedigree and genealogical terms you would call the fourth degree.
Yeah.
When it comes to separation. But yeah, and that's really interesting when you look at, if you did a comparison between medieval Catholicism, medieval Islam, medieval Catholicism is very strict about, no, we would like to keep sexual unions outside of close-knit families. And Islam, it's very, very different in creating these dynamics, leading to that dysfunction.
You know why that is?
Why is that?
Muhammad married one of his first cousins. Married two
but
of his
if
daughters,
Muhammad
the first
did it,
cousins.
If Muhammad did it, why can't I? I guess that's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem.
If your prophet, the person who's your creed as a Muslim, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. That is your central thing you believe is this guy. Then you have to, because it's not even like with Mormons and Joseph Smith. Although they have the loophole of like continuing revelation, once polygamy was outlawed, it turns out God doesn't want us to do it anymore.
Well, a lot of ancient cultures preferred cousin marriage because you kept wealth in the family.
Right.
So that just happened. Muhammad comes along. He's supposed to be the excellent moral example for humanity. Shocker, the Quran gets that wrong, obviously.
Yeah.
But so they see Muhammad doing it. He married some of his daughters off to first cousins. So, okay, it's good. Let's just keep doing it. Christianity comes on the scene and says, no, this is not good. We need to stop this.
Yeah.
Thank God for that. And what happens? It cousin marriage, long-term cousin marriage, like generations, is associated with lowering IQ. Studies have shown this. So over time, the Muslim community is collectively lowering their IQ. The Christian community is collectively raising the IQ. Gee, I wonder who's going to be leading human civilization in the coming generations.
Yeah, well, it's no surprise the institution of the university arises in medieval Europe. Things like advancing in medical knowledge, for example.
Yeah.
It's not like it's
on that point. Something really interesting the Catholic Church did that's kind of cool. So
I always like to hear that.
Yeah. In the this comes from Toby Huff. He wrote a book called The Rise of Early Modern Science. He's trying to figure out why science didn't rise in the Islamic world when they had the golden age and came out of Europe.
Right.
He says it came from a lot of Christian doctrines and ideas. So one of them was getting rid of taboos. So pagans, Jews, Muslims stayed away from pig and dead bodies a lot.
Yeah.
Christians venerated the sites of tombs of saints. They were fine going near dead bodies and pig.
And we keep relics. We'll keep the parts of deceased saints in churches even.
So that removed the taboo to go near pig and dead body. And early Europeans started dissecting pigs. And they moved to dead bodies. So the Muslim world couldn't advance because they had these taboos, these restrictions on pig going near dead bodies. That was removed from Christianity. It allowed to make incredible medical advances in science that the Islamic world couldn't bypass. They got stuck because of their Islamic tradition. They made some, but they couldn't really progress. Christianity gave the medical community the playing field they needed to really make advances.
And we allowed film franchises like Air Bud to happen because we're not freaked out by dogs. We get to have our little canine friends, but that's the thing, right? Like, because even in like Michigan, there's still a taboo about dogs being unclean, and like people will bully you if you have a dog in a Muslim neighborhood, right?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, dogs are man's best friend. What's the problem? Muhammad didn't like dogs.
He did. And it goes right back to that. The surgery thing is interesting because I think it was actually during the Black Plague. It was the Pope's personal physician, Guy de Chauliac. I don't know. He has a wonderful French name. It starts with Guy. But he was like one of the pioneers in surgery because he was involved in doing work on early cadavers. So yeah, I think that's interesting there when you bring that up because it's not just Christianity either. I wanted to look into this because people will often do the whole thing like Christians caused the Dark Ages. Like I want to do
historians don't even use that term anymore.
Yeah, because the Dark Ages, it comes from an early Renaissance term trying to disparage the time of Christendom when they would say, no, that's silly. We have Carolingian minuscules, so we have better handwriting to preserve knowledge. You have medieval technology that's created. But what's interesting is that it's not just the Muslim world we see it stagnates in its development. You think about also even like in China or Japan, that it is something really unique to the Christian worldview of wanting to investigate the world and be able to create these kind of advances.
I did a video called How Christianity Created Science. I went through like a dozen features within Christianity that gave rise to modern science. And I didn't make them up. I just quoted several historians saying, look, listen, I got this from the experts here.
Yeah.
But it's like removing taboos, the belief in being the image of God helped to advance science because if God is reasonable and he made a reasonable world, then we can use our reason. But also Christianity has something called the fall of humanity. So yeah, we have reason, it's good, but it's marred from the fall. Therefore, we have to do repeated experimentations to verify results. Lo and behold, Christianity was crucial for giving rise to the scientific method because of that.
Okay, so we can't just take things at face value. We have to do experiments. We have to prove them in order to satisfy the fact that our intellect is darkened a little bit by sin. So we have to do a bit more to establish these truths about the world.
Yeah, and so the ancient Greek philosophers that did like natural philosophy, like what we would call like proto-science, they looked at like working with your hands as like demeaning work.
Yeah.
So they're not going to build machines. They're not going to do experiments. But Jesus was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Paul was a tent maker. So the Christian natural philosophers, scientists that came later, were fine working with their hands. It took a while for that to really set in, but they started to realize, hey, if Jesus and Paul were doing this, we can work with our hands too. We can build things. We can go out and test things in the dirt.
Yeah.
So it again removed the taboo, I guess, around that whole kind of work kind of thing and made it meaningful work. So again, another way Christianity helped advance science.
Yeah. Are there what other projects like you're working on now? Are there any other like fields or areas of study that you want to get into more? Because you've covered a lot in your own channel. You've done a lot of biblical apologetics, a lot of responses to critical scholars, people like, how can the name escape me? Our favorite Mormon friend,
Dan McClellan.
Dan McClellan. Yeah. And I've had a response to McClellan too.
Yeah. He has me blocked on all platforms.
Really?
Yep.
The guy whose motto is, all right, let's hear it, doesn't want to hear it.
I used his own tactics against him. He got mad and he blocked me and said I was engaging in bad faith. Oh, really? You don't say. Gee, I wonder why that is. You think that. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's always a paramount rule on the internet that you shouldn't only dish it out if you can take it.
Exactly.
If you don't like people, it's one thing to be just a scholar who's just trying to get out there and you're not an abrasive person and you don't want to deal with abrasive people. But if you're going to be abrasive and snarky, you gotta, and that kind of circles back into that. I know McClellan has that tone that is reminiscent of kind of how the new atheist would talk, but he can actually cite scholarship. So it sounds more impressive.
He's very smart.
Yeah. But the idea is that, but now we're not willing to just sit around and just take the punishment anymore. And I think one of the things that's difficult that I wanted to bring up, I should have brought up a little bit more in my reply to McClellan, is that you'll have these, I hate this divide between the scholars and the apologists. The idea that it's like there's scholars of the Bible, but it's usually just far left or humanistic atheists or agnostics, hypercritical, oftentimes have an axe to grind against Christianity or religion. But they're the scholars. They're the dispassionate, impartial scholars. And you and I are the used car salesman apologists. And we're country bumpkins that don't know what's in these big old fancy books published by Oxford University Press or,
That's great. That's exactly how the Sadducees and Pharisees looked at Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what they said about John and Peter. How can these ungrammatoi, these unlettered men, what could they know? Or they were surprised by learning because they were unlettered.
Yeah.
They hadn't gone to fancy Jewish school.
Listen, a lot of them have a very ivory tower mentality.
Yeah.
And I don't care. But I think also there's a lot of really good conservative scholars that just people don't know about.
Yeah.
Like when I did a series debunking the documentary hypothesis. For those who don't know, it's the idea that the 5 books of Moses were originally 4 sources or 3, depending on who you ask, J, E, P, and D.
Yeah.
And then people stitched them together. So I did this big, long series debunking that. And there's so many good books I found that just proponents of the documentary hypothesis didn't even know existed for all I know, or they never addressed. So,
there's a good one on that, Before Abraham Was by Kikawada and Quinn. And that's an older one. Actually, that has really good elements, challenging, saying, but wait a minute, you say that it's divided up into the Yahwist, Elohist, priestly, and Deuteronomic sources, and it's just 4 or 5 different authors. But you can identify overarching narratives all throughout the sources that you wouldn't expect if it was multiple authors doing it.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, I put that out there, and so when I put out the first video, I announced on Twitter I'm posting the first video, and I saw a bunch of the atheists that are always citing the scholars, lose their minds, and they're tagging their favorite critical scholar. I expect a full response to this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's see what happens. So I uploaded it. Then I checked Twitter, dead silence for like 2 weeks, and I finally got a call from one of them going, yeah, it was actually a really good video. We don't really know what we're going to do about it. I mean, you made some good points. I'm like, thank you. That was very honest.
Because the problem is a lot of these atheist apologists, and that's what they are.
That's what they are.
They are apologists. They're no better than, you have, for example, you'll have Christian traditionalists, fundamentalists, whatever you want to call them, that will only mine the farthest to the right scholarship they can find to defend things like young earth creationism, for example. So they'll just mine from this very narrow strand of scholarship and say, oh, this is what scholars are saying. It's like, well, no, it's not. But these atheist apologists at the other end of the spectrum, they do the same thing. They'll, it's like, well, look what the scholars are saying. Like, scholars, you're quoting Robert Price. You're quoting Richard Carrier.
Yeah.
Like, you're the left of the left, the fringe of the fringe, when there's a whole element of scholars in the middle who will say, yeah, this is a workable hypothesis. This can account for the data that this Christian is saying.
Oh, yeah, you got to do that. But I mean, sometimes apologists got to do stuff like kind of but sometimes I heard from a scholar, he really liked what we did because we were replying to this guy called Dennis MacDonald. Dennis MacDonald.
The Homeric parallels between the Gospels.
Yeah, he thinks the Gospels are myth based off of Homer.
Well, Odysseus was on a boat and Jesus was on a boat. It's basically plagiarizing Homer.
If anyone's watching, you think we are exaggerating? No,
go read it. Go read
kind of what he does.
Go read it.
So a friend of mine, I'm sure you know him, Stephen Boyce.
Yes. Well, yes. Stephen has the channel Facts. He was previously Baptist in his theology, then became Anglican. We had a debate on justification by faith alone. And now just recently he's entered the Catholic Church and he was here in my conference here in Dallas. But prior to entering the Catholic faith, and he's still intent on doing this, lots of great work on antiquity and Christian apologetics. So what'd you have with Stephen?
Yeah. So I brought him on the channel to pretend to be somebody, not Dennis MacDonald, but I believe it was Donald McDennis. And he played a Southern scholar who was going to explain to you the Civil War was a myth based off of Homer, really.
Right.
And we demonstrated very clearly that Abraham Lincoln was just Agamemnon. George McClellan was Achilles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stonewall Jackson was Achilles. Just getting it confused now. Yeah. Stonewall Jackson was Hector.
Yeah.
Achilles was George McClellan. And we just went through and we showed all these parallels. We had entire charts, like 16 points of just parallels.
Yeah.
But the point was like, listen, if we can do this, that's what Dennis MacDonald is doing.
Yeah.
You guys see this is not a coherent argument. There's a lot of problems here. You just can't find parallels and think you did something.
Yeah. So back in the 1960s, there was an article by Samuel Sandmel dealing with parallels, and it called this phenomena parallelomania.
Yep.
And that's the problem. This goes back to the people in like the early 20th century. You had a lot of scholars of religion saying, oh, well, we can easily explain Christianity as being wholly derived from mystery religion cults, Greco-Roman mystery religions.
Oh, the cool thing is we got Odysseus to be Ulysses because it's the same name. It's the same name.
It's just spelled in different ways.
It worked so perfectly because he even sailed ships down the Mississippi just like Odysseus.
Yeah, and so what they'll try to do is say, oh, Mithra, and you look at these other Attis of Phrygia, and it's derived from that. And so that's where you had the very first mythicists. In the early 20th century. I mean, you had some French guys maybe 100 years earlier, but you had, that's where you get people like John Remsburg, who has that famous list of here's 100 authors that never mention Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's dumb. They also don't mention Christians in the first century, but we know there were Christians.
Yeah.
So it's an absolutely dumb argument. And this was trying to make its way in the early 20th century, but by the latter half of the 20th century, it's just dead because New Testament scholarship sees no, the New Testament story is rooted in Judaism. It is not rooted in mystery religions. They cannot explain all the data that we have here, but they were just so obsessed with trying to find these parallels that are just surface level.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I debated somebody on that a while back on capturing Christianity. I forget his name. He was a mythicist, but I mean, I brought up a lot of that stuff. I mean, like, you're just finding parallels and running wild with it. This is much better explained as coming out of Second Temple Judaism.
Yeah. It reminds, I think the most bonkers one that even goes beyond the Jesus mythicists is Joseph Atwill's Caesar's Messiah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever done any work on that? It's the wildest of the wild, I think.
I mean, like, it's so silly, but I mean, again,
but people get taken in by this. His YouTube video's got like 1 million, 2 million views. I'm like, what's going on?
It's so silly, not because it's weird. It's silly because it's just like, it doesn't meet the facts. The Romans invented Christianity. Why? Like,
they invented Christianity so that it would be easier for them to subjugate Jews by creating a Messiah who is a pacifist, except they also created a religion that inculcates civil disobedience and rejection of the Roman gods.
Yeah, like it doesn't make any.
So yes, you're right. It doesn't make any sense at all.
And in the Gospels, the Romans killed the Messiah. So like, how's that? The Jews are now going to adopt this religion. Like, there's so many problems. But I mean, even mysticists are like, I'm not that crazy. I mean, come on.
That's one thing I love. Even like I was reading Robert Price's review of Caesar's Messiah, and then even Richard Carrier, who he and I debated. Oh gosh, I think it was 12 years ago.
I just debated him a couple months ago.
Oh, how is that? How's Richard doing?
Well, we debated on does God exist?
Oh, what was his favorite tack this time to put forward atheism?
Well, I read a bunch of his articles and know that he actually argues the universe comes from nothing. Not a Lawrence Krauss nothing.
Like actual nothing.
An actual nothing. And he says because there's no laws when there's nothing, so anything can happen. Yeah, I know. So I grilled him.
In case you didn't get the reaction shot. Then we'll edit it later if we need it.
So I grilled him through like the open dialogue on this whole. And he's like, so yeah, the universe came from nothing. And it just, but it's more like just a dot. It's a dot with one property. No, it's more like a bubble, but with two properties. So it's not nothing, it's something, but it's also nothing. But it also can create everything on its own, but it's not God. It can't be a mind, but it can do anything it wants. And so that was fun. But he just couldn't.
I love this idea that, something could come from nothing because in a state of absolute nothing, there's no law preventing something coming from nothing, as if that is how laws of nature work. Yeah. Laws of nature are not these invisible police officers telling matter what to do. Traditional Christian understanding even would be that, and this coheres with modern scientific descriptions of laws, that laws are ways of approximating how things in the universe behave. But even like that, modern science would say, well, there's no law that tells the rocket, the phone it has to drop. It's just like, that's just what they tend to do. And we observe this regularity, and then we make this wonderful non-scientific assumption of that regularity in all times and places. But not the idea like, there's a law mandating it goes, and there's another law saying something can't come from nothing. No, if there were absolute nothing, then you couldn't predicate anything. There's no subject.
If there's absolutely nothing, there's no laws.
There's no laws at all.
So what are you talking about? Like, there's nothing that can happen because there's nothing.
There can't be any causal descriptions of any kind.
Yeah, so I just grilled him on that for a good 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And the audience just left confused going, yeah, I think God exists. I mean, like, because it's either...
Is this the alternative we're going to go with? Like, really?
Yeah, you believe that, a mind created everything or magic nothing created everything. What's more likely? I mean, at the end of the day. So, this is what I mean. I think the new atheist movement is kind of dying if that's what they're,
Yeah, at least the snarky kind of new atheism. I think, though, maybe you can give me some thoughts on this. I worry, though, that we're still really trudging through a sort of nihilistic, post-Christian, ironic Gen Z landscape.
Yeah, it's still there.
And so I think that we have a lot of work to do in that. Do you think we have a lot of work to do in that area?
Absolutely. We got it. This is why, I was on the streets in Dearborn just talking to people.
Yeah.
It's not just about winning the people on top. Sometimes winning the people on the bottom is better because they might be the next, president,
Do you mean
senator.
By people on the top or bottom? Are you talking about just average lay people versus the experts?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just getting the regular guy on the street.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching Muslim apologists and they're like, we really just we got to go after like the people at top. We got to win over the celebrities. We got to win over the politicians. And I'm like, it's not what Jesus did.
Yeah.
Jesus went to he went to Peter and he's like, Peter, I got great stuff you're going to do. And he changed the world through Jesus. So, I mean, like sometimes it's good to talk to just the average person on the streets and be like, hey, you ever thought about this? And then if they convert, they could do amazing things. God loves to use the weak to humble the strong. And so we have to remember that. And so I think when we're dealing with Gen Z, we got to go out and witness to them. We cannot let them fall behind. They are our primary ministry field right now, it seems.
Yeah. And I worry also this idea that, we'll just go after the influencers, the people who are at the top, whether it's in academics or Hollywood or sports or fame. I worry then if Christianity, and I am seeing this in some areas, that like these influential people become Christian, or there's kind of a lot of them become Catholic now, as if like that's the hip thing. I really worry like Christianity was never meant to be a fad. Like there was even an article, I think it was like the New York Post, or I think it might have been the New Yorker, saying like the hottest club in town right now is the Catholic Church. And I'm like, it sends my cringe level up to 9,000. I'm just like, oh no, that's not that. If you see it as like, oh, this is the cool thing, like smells and bells, people are Catholic or they're Orthodox. It's just like, no, Christianity is this enduring thing, even when it is hated and despised. And there are many cultures around the world, and still today, where it's hated and despised. But that's where you should be, because that's where the truth is. So I guess I worry that like, yeah, if you go, it's fine if someone influential converts, praise be to God. But I think you're onto something. You say, no, we have to build from the ground up.
Yeah, well, I think the best thing to do is just to ignore that, honestly, just ignore it. I mean, we are the cool place. I mean, that's just the truth. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
But if you're cool, you don't have to say you're cool.
Right. I mean, so just ignore it. I mean, I don't think we should say like, I mean, it is kind of cringy, but let's just, okay, whatever. You guys do your thing. You think we're cool now, but you're not going to think we're cool in a couple years. We're going to keep doing our thing.
We're going to still be here.
And we're still going to know we're the cool place when you move on to the next fad. And I think if we capitalize on this moment like that, it'll bring more people into the church.
Yeah.
We need to just realize we shouldn't give into either extreme. Like, yeah, we're the cool place. Come, we're going to have pizza all the time and we're just going to really cater to you. No, we're going to keep catering to Christ as we have been, doing what he wants. And, but we also shouldn't go in the opposite direction and like, oh, no, we don't want to be this cool thing out there. No, we just know we are.
Yeah, we know we are. All right. My last question for you. Are you going to let people know what denomination you are?
You have to guess.
Hold on. I'm getting real strong Amish vibes.
That's. How did you know?
Amish Mennonite. you gotta let it grow out a little bit more, but you'll be there. Have you found? It is interesting. I've seen some apologists now leaning more into defending their explicit theological tradition, but that's never been your focus, and it's not going to be your focus anytime soon.
No, I mean, like, we need to focus on unity. If we just united as Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, I think we could do so much good things. If we could just be a united front and stop squabbling over these little things for now. I mean, like, if denominational disputes could be talk over a beer, not fighting on Twitter, I mean, like, could you imagine the work we could get done? I mean, like, but it just, I don't know. So I'm just going to, that's why I keep my denomination private, what church I attend. I've only said I attend a high church.
Okay, so that's one clue.
That's the only clue I've given. It's a high church, whatever that means. So people tell me they know what that means.
Okay, Nordic Catholic Church that preaches in Norwegian.
You're so close, yes.
Almost.
Yes, so.
It is a very high European church speaking some kind of Eastern European language for its vernacular.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that as a Catholic apologist, I do believe Catholicism is the fullness of what God has revealed. And I'm going to share that with people. But at the same time, my heart, I've said this often, I hope it kind of becomes a new motto for me. My goal is to reach the most number of people who are the furthest away from Christ.
That's good, yeah.
That is what I really want to do. So like when I got started doing this, the first book I ever wrote was Answering Atheism. And the second book was Persuasive Pro-Life. And so it's like, especially when it comes to moral issues, I've gotten in that a lot. Secularism. I would love to get into Islam a lot more and engage that.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. I mean, like, if some of these people that are getting into interdenomination fights took that energy and just focused it on Muslims, you'd see so much. You'd see so many seeds planted, and we'd see a huge harvest in a few years. But like, are you really gonna like? I get that these are important issues between Christians,
but it shouldn't be all we're doing. It should be a portion, and that's what I've always wanted to do here on the channel. That a portion of what I do are these denominational claims, Catholicism, and that is important. But yeah, I want to reach people with Jesus. I want to get into Islam. I get a little nervous. I mean, I never want to get out ahead of my skis where I talk about something I don't know. So like I looked into like Arabic a little bit. How important do you think that is in doing Muslim apologetics, or is it kind of overrated if you need to know Arabic?
It's overrated. They use that as a smoke and mirror to say,
well, you don't understand it because you can't speak Arabic.
Yeah, it's a big smoke and mirror.
Okay.
And then the reply is, oh, well, I guess Allah was deficient because he couldn't make a book that could be translated well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because we don't do that we talk about when people get in the nitty gritty of the New Testament, well, you do need to talk about the Greek here or there, but it's not our go-to if you don't like it to say, well,
and there's Quran lexicons online now. So when I'm doing live streams, live call-in shows with Muslims, I got a Quran lexicon right there. Yeah. Right. It was one of the tabs ready to go. If they want to start bringing up Arabic, I can just, let me check. And your scholars say you're wrong. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I definitely want to get involved in that. And I definitely want to encourage more of my listeners, especially like my Catholic listeners, Catholic influencers who work in my field a lot more, especially because we may not notice Islam as much in America unless you live in a place where a lot of Muslims have congregated, like Dearborn, Michigan, or something like that. But globally, especially, I mean, my goodness, the greatest threat to Christian existence globally is violent manifestations of Islam, hands down.
And the studies show it. I mean, so there's a paper by Davis Brown. He also wrote a book called War and Religion in a Secular Age. He just shows, the data shows Islam is linked to violence, whereas Christianity negatively linked to violence.
Okay, so where you have higher concentrations of Christians, violence goes down.
Yeah, and violence goes up. And there's another book called The Price of Freedom Denied. Same thing with authoritarianism and persecution. Islam, it goes up.
Yeah.
Christianity goes down.
The easy thing there is just compare the first 300 years of Islam and the first 300 years of Christianity.
Exactly. So we're not just saying Islam is violent. The data shows Islam is violent.
I was reading an article on CNN, I remember many years ago, and it said it showed a map of terrorist attacks around the world. And the title was the year religion became violent, or how religion targets people around the world. And then I go through the list and it was 20 of them. And it was 20 out of 20. It was Islam. 20 out of 20. And yet it's religion is the problem. When everyone involved was a member of some kind of Muslim sect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Islam is linked to violence. The Quran is very much on the offensive. And if you read it, always attacking the pagans, attacking the Jews. It teaches Muslims to be on the offense. Whereas Christianity often teaches us to be on the defense.
Turn the other cheek.
Yeah. So
put away your sword.
Exactly. So they're very much already primed for that. And then because Islam is also very political, that spills over into their politics, and then it spills over into their war efforts.
Whereas we say, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's.
Yeah. Islam lacks the separation of church and state, which Christianity developed, which also helped to give rise to science.
Oh, okay. How do you put that together?
So the historian Edward Grant pointed out that when Christianity came up with the separation of church and state, it developed that idea we have different institutions. You have some people work in politics, you have some people work in religion. But they don't have to be doing the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so therefore it allowed science to become its own institution and flourish, whereas in Islam, everything is under the religious scholars and their leadership. So science is only as useful as much as it helps Islam, as Toby Huff points out.
Yeah.
Therefore, it couldn't go further. Christianity, because it had the separation of church and state, gave it the grounds it needed to develop and do its own thing.
Yeah. I'd also direct our listeners, there's a great historian of science that does work on this. His name's Ronald Numbers.
Read him a ton. Yeah, he's got great books.
Ronald Numbers, the myth of myth of religion, war on. So just look up Ronald Numbers, History of Science.
Yeah. A good book he has is called Galileo Goes to Jail and Other Myths.
And Other Myths. That's something. Galileo Goes to Jail and Other Myths. So definitely look him up because it's interesting. I think a lot of the caricatures. This is what I love. Secular liberals will create caricatures of Christianity and attack it. To which I'll say, what you're describing is not Christianity; it's Islam. Mm-hmm. And yet you won't attack the real thing that exists, that does the bad things. Even The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, this dystopian regime that's going to imprison women and treat women like chattel. This is Islam. It's not Christianity. You're literally describing they have to wear these red coats and bonnets around their heads over there. Go, that's Islam. Yeah. It's just the niqab and the hijab. But you won't criticize, but you'll somehow think that Christians are the one behind this sort of fever dream.
It's a delusion that Satan throws on people, I swear.
He does. Well, let me, to pull it all together, where would you recommend if some of our listeners, they would like to learn more about how to respond to Islam, whether it's your channel or other resources, what are some things you would recommend for kind of getting started?
Check out Nabil Qureshi's book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. It's a really good book.
That's sad that he passed away a few years ago. He was very young. He had this dramatic conversion from Islam to Christianity. He was very young too. Mm-hmm. I'm very blessed he at least wrote that book before he passed away.
A lot of the good stuff to combat Islam is going to be online. So my channel, Inspiring Philosophy. Mm-hmm. You also have David Wood's channel, Apologetics Roadshow. You have God Logic. He's incredible in debating Muslims. If you want to learn how to debate Muslims, just watch him do it.
Yeah.
Some smaller channels as well, like The Word and I. He's a great channel. Jai and DOC. So Jai and DOC.
Okay.
That's that channel. You have Eric, your brother in Christ, L as well, his wife. So I mean, there's lots of really good stuff out there now, just online, ready to be taken. Apostate Prophet, another great guy as well. So we're putting out a lot of new stuff. Myself and my co-worker Than, we're developing new arguments to attack Islam.
Yeah.
We're working on one like the logical problem of the Quran using the logical problem of the Trinity,
Yeah.
but the logical problem of the Quran, similar things.
I like it.
We've got, new dilemmas we're throwing at Muslims, problems in the Quran. So, I mean, we're putting out a lot of new cutting edge stuff to attack this religion and get Muslims out of there before it's too late.
I want to jump in on this. I'm excited. It reminds me of how 15 years ago I was seeing it was Protestants who were spearheading anti-atheism arguments and dealing with the new atheists. Catholics were kind of late to that. I
Better
feel
late
like
than never.
Exactly. And now I want to encourage my other Catholic influencers to do so in a way that is scholarly, and while engaging Muslims who can be thorny and prickly people, does not. I know there are some Catholics and Orthodox who engage with Islam, but they fall to the same aggressive tactics of Muslims, and that's what I don't want to see us turn into.
And take the stuff that's already out there.
Yeah.
Just
don't reinvent the wheel, just get it.
Don't be like, well, IP already did that kind of video. I got to do something unique. No, just do the stuff we did, because the more we talk about it, the more we'll see it. So if you want to do a video on the biblical prophet dilemma or the Islamic dilemma, do it. We're not going to be like,
I get emails all the time, people saying, can I reshare your video? Can I take this from your book and put it in a video? Is that okay? I'm like, is that okay, man? Get going.
Go. Yeah. Translate. Yeah. I get all that stuff too. Yeah. Just do it.
Just go. Good. We need more out there. All righty. So Inspiring Philosophy, we'll link to your channel in the description below. And definitely keep up all your good work.
Thanks.
All right. And thank you guys for watching. And I hope you all have, actually, if you'd like us to keep having great conversations like this, please go and support us at TrentHornPodcast.com. Little as $5 a month. That allows us to have these great guests on to engage in these conversations. TrentHornPodcast.com. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a very blessed day.